Well, since today is January 1st, 2016, and it's also my birthday, I figure I give you guys my top 10 movies of 2015 list. Now, before we start this list, note that The Revenant and The Hateful Eight are not on this list since I did not get a chance to see them since they were in their limited release runs. So sorry about that, but I will do reviews on them once they come out for a wide release, or when I get a chance to see them, really. And also, we're going to start off, and also, without further ado, let's begin with my top 10 favorite movies of 2015. Also, there'll be honorable mentions after number 1. So let's begin with this list with number 10, which is Inside Out. When I was doing this list, I thought there was one movie that I didn't notice that was on the list. It was Inside Out. So immediately when I saw that, I added it in, and for good reasons. This is Pixar's best movie this decade. Yes, even better than Toy Story 3, which was amazing. And the reason why I say this is because, there were some movies like Cars 2, Brave, Monsters University, which I either avoided or I just thought was mediocre. But Inside Out in no way, shape, or form is mediocre. In fact, it is excellent. It handles the subject of puberty and about about growing pains in a very mature and yet kind of a lighthearted way also. I love the way the emotions work off of each other, and I love the way it connects back to the real world. I love the comedy in this movie. I love the animation. God, I could talk about this movie for hours and not get bored of it, but you guys have heard it all from the critics already, so I'm just going to keep it brief. Inside Out should win Best Animated Picture at the Oscars. I don't care what movie comes out, that should win it. Alright, coming in at number 9 is Bridge of Spies. Now, you guys know I am a big fan of Steven Spielberg, and the Coen brothers writing this movie, what could possibly go wrong? Not really much, with Tom Hanks as the main lead. I mean, this Cold War spy thriller is honestly just so gripping. Now, it is a little bit long, and it could drag out for a little bit. However, I just feel like that the dialogue in this movie is like, can fill up like whole action sequences because it's that intense. You're on the edge of your seat the entire time. I mean, I feel like that this, while I don't think it's as good as like Lincoln or as like in any of the Indiana Jones movies, I feel like that Bridge of Spies is that really that good Cold War movie. If you guys like don't prefer much of the action, you like take for instance, there were 2 big Cold War movies this year, Bridge of Spies and Man from U.N.C.L.E. Now, if you want the more action side of it, go for Man of U.N.C.L.E., which I liked. But if you want more of the dramatic side and just, the political side, that's understandable, see Bridge of Spies, which I highly recommend. And by the way, Mark Rylance, yeah, that dude deserves a supporting actor award. He was really good. Okay, number 8 is The Martian. Now, before I saw The Martian in October, I didn't read the book. Yeah, sorry, people. When I usually go into movies based off books, I usually don't read the books, with a couple exceptions. But anyhow, with The Martian, I thought to myself, this should be interesting since there have been 2 space movies which I thought were disappointing, which were Gravity and Interstellar that came out the previous 2 years. So I was wondering what Ridley Scott could do. And boy, did he show off his talents. I mean, Matt Damon, Jessica Chastain, Kristen Wiig, Jeff Daniels, Donald Glover. This is an amazing cast. And I also especially love Matt Damon. Because, once he was left on Mars, he could have been this bitchy and moaning guy. Understandable because he's left on a planet millions of miles away from home. But no, he's resourceful. He has a positive attitude. It doesn't feel fake, his character. It feels so realistic, and yet it feels so likable. I mean, Matt Damon has played unlikable characters before, but I mean, I feel like that this may be the best performance of his career. Even better than Good Will Hunting, honestly. So, Matt Damon, I wish you the best of luck at the Golden Globes, dude. And Ridley Scott, once again, a tip of the cap to you. Alright, number 7 is Straight Outta Compton. Now, I was hyped for this movie when it came out this previous August. And you know why? Because I loved listening to NWA when I was younger, and I still love listening to this day. So when I heard that F. Gary Scott was directing this movie, I was just hyped. And boy, did I love it. Oh man, I mean, even though this movie was more about Eazy-E compared to the other members, I didn't care because not only did they do a good job of syncing the music with the actors, but I just loved the way they told the story. It didn't feel boring, it didn't feel bland. What it really felt like I was in Compton in the late 80s and early 90s. I mean, also in this movie, in this movie, I knew what was going to happen throughout it because, I kind of followed up on the history before this movie. Because, well, there's not really any spoilers if you know your history. But let me just say this, even if I knew what was going on, I still felt shocked by that. Very few movies could do that for me. Very few. And this is one of those few. So hopefully this movie does get some recognition during the Oscars. I really hope so because this was truly a great biopic. But speaking in terms of biopic, number 6 is Steve Jobs. Now, one of my favorite movies is Slumdog Millionaire, and that's by Danny Boyle. It won Best Picture in 2008, and it's about a kid from the slums of India who wins Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and he becomes rich. Simple enough, and it's a cute story and nice. Steve Jobs. Now, in Slumdog Millionaire, he was a likable character. Great job by Danny Boyle. Steve Jobs. He is the most unlikable asshole, and thankfully Michael Fassbender perfects this at all times. Oh my goodness, is this movie intense. I mean, you thought Steve Jobs was this nice, warm presenter? No. I just also love Seth Rogen as Steve Wozniak in this movie, Jeff Daniels as Jeff Scully, and especially Kate Winslet as Steve Jobs' assistant. Oh my goodness, she's great. And for Michael Fassbender, he really doesn't become the nice Steve Jobs until towards the third act of this movie. But I just love Fassbender's performance. I love Danny Boyle, he does hold back a lot of his direction style in this movie. It's not as intense as in other movies, but it's really all about the acting and the writing from Aaron Sorkin. Sorkin did the writing and everyone else did the acting. But man, I wish this movie would have done better at the box office, honestly, because this is a phenomenal movie. Hopefully, this movie does get recognition at the Oscars. And yeah, this was a great movie. Alright, number 5 is Spotlight. Now, this movie has been getting a lot of buzz for being probably the potential frontrunner for both the Golden Globes and the Oscars. And I can see why, really. I mean, the ensemble cast of Rachel McAdams, Michael Keaton, Mark Ruffalo, I mean, they are all great in this movie. Stanley Tucci, Lev Schreiber, I mean, it's a really intense movie. You want to feel angry at the church for what they do. And, honestly, this movie, just like what Chris Stuckman said, and I agree too, everyone feels held back in this movie. There's not a lot of yelling and screaming like there would be in a potential Oscar-nominated movie type. But I just, this movie, it makes me feel angry, but at the same time, it makes me feel glad that I saw this movie because it is just Tom McCarthy. You put together a well-crafted movie, and I'd be very happy if this movie won Best Picture at the Oscars. All right, number 4 is Spy. Now, the story about how I saw Spy is interesting because I went with someone I knew. I took someone out to see Entourage for their birthday, and they ended up hating it. So that person and I decided to go see Spy, and we both were about it since we're not the biggest Melissa McCarthy fans usually. But boy, was I laughing my ass off after I saw Spy. Man, was this movie hilarious. Melissa McCarthy, Jude Law, 50 Cent. Oh my god, this movie is just non-stop laughs. And I'm glad it got its Golden Globe nominations. And this is probably easily the year's best comedy, without a doubt, in my opinion. So yeah, guys, if you haven't seen Spy yet, go check that out. It is absolutely hysterical. Alright, number 3 is Mad Max Fury Road, and now this movie, I'm just going to keep this brief since everyone's talked about how great this movie is, and I've done reviews on it. It made my top list of the summer movies, so I'm just going to keep this brief. Mad Max, you're amazing. I just can't wait for the sequel. Everyone did a great job in this movie. Let's move on to number 2, which is Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, if you're wondering where my review for Star Wars The Force Awakens is, I'm just going to without talking about any spoilers, I'm just going to say this. That movie was fucking amazing. Yes, it's my new favorite Star Wars movie. Even better than Return of the Jedi, even better than Empire Strikes Back, even better than A New Hope. I just love this movie so much. Everything, without talking the spoilers, everything felt right to me. It felt like a great payoff compared to the prequels. I just absolutely loved it. The ending is just shocking, but just great. I just love Rey. I love Finn. I love everyone in this movie. I'm not going to talk about it that much without getting into spoilers, but oh god damn, I love this movie. I know, and you're probably wondering, why the hell is it at number 2? You'll see why, but god damn it, J.J. Abrams, I wish you could direct episode 8. But my number 1 favorite movie of 2015, it is Ex Machina. Now, a lot of you are probably saying to yourself, why the hell is this ahead of Star Wars? Why is the hell of it in front of Mad Max? Now, let me just tell you something right now. This was not one of those movies I was jumping up and down excited to go see right before, and I wasn't jumping up and down seeing it after I saw it. The reason why this is my number 1 movie is because this movie was the only movie this year that made me have that wow effect. Like, I was just silent for 20 minutes after I saw a movie, just thinking about humanity, thinking about the rise of artificial intelligence. I was just thinking about just life in general after this movie. It was that powerful. Oscar Isaac, Alicia Vikander, Domhnall Hall Gleeson, all 3 future stars who were just phenomenal in this movie. I love the writing. I love the visuals. This movie just felt so quiet, and yet it felt so quiet. It felt like there wasn't a lot, and yet there was a lot in it too. It felt so quiet, yet it brought up a loud message. Everything in this movie just worked. It's one of my favorite indie movies of the year, one of my favorite sci-fi movies of the year, and hopefully, I know it's not going to win Best Picture probably, but I wish it would win it, because this movie, there's very few of these movies I've seen around, and I wish there was more of them. Well, that was my list. So now let's get on to some honorable mentions. The Big Short. Love this movie. It was pretty funny. The only reason why I didn't make the list was because of some of the director's choices and a bit of the complicated economics. Ant-Man. Very funny movie. I would consider this the new Guardians of the Galaxy, really. Mission Impossible. Rogue Nation. It was a good improvement over Ghost Protocol, and still love Tom Cruise. Brooklyn would have made the list if it weren't for Inside Out, but still a nice, warm surprise, and hopefully Saoirse Ronan could win Best Actress. And then finally on my list, we have Black Mass. Great acting from Benedict Cumberbatch, Johnny Depp, and Dakota Johnson. Only reason it didn't make the list was because it dragged out for a bit long. Well, people, that's my list. Stay tuned for more reviews. Till again, this is White Rice sign off. Happy New Year.